China charts its own course with a new satellite navigation system. We'll explore this major achievement and the surge of COVID-19 cases in the United States. Why health experts say it may only get worse in the weeks ahead. Hello, I'm Arnold Naidu, and this is The Heat. We'll have more on China's Beidou 3 navigation system later in our program. But first, U.S. health experts testified before a House coronavirus panel on Friday. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the top U.S. infectious diseases expert, called out the need for a national strategy and warned that the U.S. could soon face as many as 100,000 infections a day. The U.S. leads the world with 4.5 million confirmed cases and more than 152,000 deaths. CGTN's Nathan King begins our coverage from the White House. Nathan, it was a contentious hearing at times, but what was the big takeaway?
Yeah, incredible hearing, really. You know, in the midst of 150,000 deaths and all the cases you just described, you'd think that science may be ahead of the politics, but not here in Washington. I mean, really, it was a contentious hearing. And remember, this is the subcommittee in the House of Representatives set up to drill down on the coronavirus response and try and lead the path forward. Now, Dr. Anthony Fauci, you just mentioned, and Robert Redfield, the head of the Center for Disease Control, and Brett Grouard, the Deputy Assistant for Health, you know, really are leading the way. But this was a very partisan hearing. You know, you had Democrats trying to essentially pin the blame on the White House here for that lackluster response. You had Republicans trying to pin the latest spread on protest movements that we've seen across this nation recently. And, you know, Dr. Anthony Fauci, you know there's been a campaign against him from some people here at the White House, including the president sometimes. Listen to this exchange where he basically had to admit that the opening up of the U.S. in some states too quickly has led to the spread.
President Trump has just tweeted out a statement. He says that the United States has far more cases than Europe, and I'm quoted here, because we do much more testing than any other country in the world. Do you agree with President's statement?
I stand by my previous statement that the increase in cases was due to a number of factors, one of which was that in the attempt to reopen, that in some situations states did not abide strictly by the guidelines that the task force and the White House had put out.
Now, Dr. Anthony Fauci was very diplomatic, as were his colleagues, but essentially my takeaway from listening to the whole thing, so you didn't have to, was basically that there is a big problem still with testing, with contract tracing, as well as other things, including the massive politicization of mask wearing, the opening up of the economy, and of course schools going back in person as well in the next few weeks or so, Anna.
Nathan, one other development, U.S. lawmakers are working on a new coronavirus relief package that's to help boost the economy and help people. What's the status on those negotiations?
Well, are they though? Because the Senate just adjourned and they're not coming back for a few weeks and nothing has been done. What they did was a last-minute offer to the Democrats to continue that very important $600 a week extra in federal unemployment aid to the 20 to 30 million people that are essentially unemployed. But the Democrats are saying, look, we've had months to do this. We've already passed a $3 trillion bill. We can't extend this just for a week. So we're kind of in limbo now. You know, it's kind of a game of chicken here where both sides are looking at each other and saying, you blink first, with the White House in the middle as well. It's quite incredible. You know, both sides have realized with the continued spread, especially in, you know, I don't want to say it, red states, Republicans down south, as opposed to blue states in the early stages of this pandemic, that actually all of America is feeling the pain right now. That's good. That should unite the whole country. But it really isn't happening here in Washington. And, you know, you want to take a step back in time. This is the most advanced economy, the most powerful country in the world, 150,000 dead, and their politicians go away and can't solve anything.
Okay, Nathan, thanks for that report. That's CGTN's Nathan King reporting there from the White House. Well, for more now on U.S. politics and the state of the economy, let's bring in our panel. Joining us from Los Angeles is Jesse Lee Peterson. He's an author, activist, pastor, and host of the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show. Also with us from New York is Christopher Hahn. He's the host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast on iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts. And from Massachusetts, John Quelch is the Dean of the University of Miami's Herbert Business School. Thanks to all of you for being with us. John Quelch, let me start with you. And we just heard that very distressing news from our reporter there, Nathan King, telling us that Congress people have gone home without reaching agreement on this stimulus bill. There is something of a Band-Aid solution. They've extended the benefits for a week. But if there's no other solution to give people this kind of benefit that they were getting, what kind of impact is that going to have, not just on families, but also on the U.S. economy?
Anand, it's going to have a big impact. Thank you for having me this evening. We have to understand that everything was going pretty well for a couple of months, but then the patient had a relapse, and the patient was essentially released from hospital too early. And therefore, the last couple of weeks, we've seen an uptick in the continuing unemployment insurance claims. We've seen year-on-year credit card spending that had been creeping back up, now stalled out. And we've seen consumer confidence that was up in July, down in June. And so throughout the economy, there is a measure of pessimism, and that can only be magnified by the impasse in Congress, because it's clear that 30 million, as the report indicated, 30 million consumers and households are hurting. They do need this supplemental employment benefit, maybe not at $600 per person for everybody, but they also need a continuing moratorium on evictions from rental accommodations as well.
Right.
And this impasse is simply not good enough.
John, one other question. We've just had another 1.4 million Americans file for unemployment. We also got the news this week that the country saw its biggest quarterly post-war contraction in, and yet, you know, we also see the stock market continuing to climb. So what's the longer-term outlook for the economy?
Right. So important to note the 33% quarterly reduction, 4 times higher than the largest quarterly reduction during the 2008 financial crisis. And by comparison, during the same quarter, it's worth pointing out that another very large economy, Germany, had a 10% year-on-year reduction. Meanwhile, actually, the Chinese economy rebounded 3.2% year-on-year. And so the magnitude of the problem in the United States in the second quarter is really substantial. I think a lot of investors, a lot of institutions were counting on a V-shaped recovery and a huge rebound in the third quarter, but Goldman Sachs and many others are having to scramble to revise downward their projections for a recovery and a rebound in the third quarter. So certainly for the rest of this year, I think it looks as though the U.S. is going to underperform what the experts forecast a month or two ago. And the question is whether or not the vaccine is going to come along fast enough to greatly boost consumer confidence and get everybody back on track in 2021.
Chris Hahn, we see this becoming another political football right now, the fighting that's going on between the Democrats and the Republicans on Congress. Would it be fair to say that in this instance, with the Congress people now packing their bags, going away on vacation, they've actually failed, both Democrats and Republicans have actually failed the American people again?
Well, the Senate surely failed. The House of Representatives passed the bill 70 days ago. The Senate refused to act on it till this week, and they can't even get their majority in line. There are over 20 Republicans that have told Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate Republicans, that they will not vote for this or any other relief bill. So that leaves it to Democrats in the Senate. And if you're leaving it to Democrats in the Senate, you really need to start with the House of Representatives bill, not some fantasy bill being floated by the White House. The White House has failed to lead on this. America has failed to lead the world on this crisis, and we are seeing the effects of that. So no, I would not pass the blame around equally. The House of Representatives did their job. They passed a bill 70 days ago. The Senate has done nothing. Mitch McConnell is not a leader. He's just some guy who likes to play politics, and now is not a time for that. Now's a time for leadership.
All right, Jesse Lee Peterson, what is your view on this? Welcome to the show, by the way. I mean, what is your reading of the situation right now?
I think that all people know, all honest people know, that the coronavirus is not as serious as the children of the lie are pretending. The children of the lie are the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the right-on Republicans, the never-Trumpers, and the black race hustlers. They're holding the people in captivity because they want the great white hope out of office. And I call Donald Trump, our president, the great white hope. This is a political issue, and it's about getting rid of Donald Trump. These people are liars. The situation is not as bad as they're pretending. They don't want the economy to recover. They don't want the people to go back to work because they want to blame Donald Trump.
All right, but Jesse,
they have election coming up, and they don't want to do it. We just saw a terrorist attack upon America by this far left radical Black Lives Matter and Antifa.
Okay.
And those people, they ran around,
this is the
burning
problem
buildings,
with this country.
destroying.
You got guys like this.
Let me
who are
finish.
taking
All right,
serious.
one moment, one moment, Chris. Let him finish.
Let me finish. Hold on, buddy. And they went around destroying America, killing people, robbing and raping.
Yeah.
They had no mask on, no problem. The coronavirus discussion died down. And as soon as the attack on
Jesse, let me ask you this.
America
Okay, Jesse,
died down, now they're talking about the coronavirus
Jesse, let me ask you this. How can you say that the coronavirus pandemic is not as serious as the media makes it out to be when we have 150,000 people dead and 4.5 million people infected in the United States?
Well, what you have to realize is that hospitals get money for lying about the coronavirus situation.
No.
So most people that go into hospitals today, they can go in for cancer, they can go in for other things.
All right, these
and the hospitals are lying and saying that, oh, they died from coronavirus.
All right, Jesse, these are verified numbers.
True. Hold on, sir.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to interrupt me. Hold on.
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt you. Hold on. And so the hospitals are lying about these stats, about these numbers. This is about getting rid of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's not about the people. The people, the politicians would allow the people to suffer in order to get rid of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
All right, Chris, a quick response from you, and then I'm going to move on.
Yeah, you want to know what the problem in America is right now, is that one party is captured by people like Jesse. So when we talk about what's going on in D.C.,
wait one moment, Jesse.
We want to talk about.
You are a liar.
We want to talk about what's.
You are
we want to talk about what's going on.
Okay,
You're
Jesse,
one of them, and you cannot
shut up.
be trusted.
Okay,
you're one of them, and you cannot be trusted.
You are a foolish human
tell me to
being
shut up.
who is a
You're
disgrace
a
to
liar.
this country.
You
and
are
we
a
have
liar.
we have a situation in this country that is
Satan is
severe,
your
and
daddy.
you are making
Satan
things
is your
up
daddy.
because
Satan
you
is your
know
daddy, and
nothing.
you are
You
a
do
liar
nothing.
and
You cannot
be
even.
trusted. This is
Okay,
about
Jesse.
getting rid of
You want to know what's
president.
wrong with America? It's you. It's people like you who support this president, lie,
It's people like you and the Democratic Party.
I have got to move on.
You are
Okay,
liars.
I've got to move on. Let me bring in John Quelch. John, let's look at the situation as far as the economy is concerned. I mean, the country is now caught, as we can see, between a pandemic and there's also an urge, you hear it around the country, to reopen the economy. One is causing a problem with the other. Can the country actually do both?
Well, many people have articulated a trade-off between public health and the economy, and that is really a false dichotomy, as I think Tony Fauci and many others have said. You have to have good public health security in order to have good economic security. At the same time, it's clear that there are very significant costs to delaying reopening. Just take the arena of mental health, for example. Many families are in confined spaces, they're on top of each other, and all sorts of problems are arising as a result of that in terms of the learning quality that students can undertake in home learning, as well as other family members being, in confined spaces with each other. So with this mental health type problem, there's an imperative to do everything we can to get back into classrooms and to reopen. But we can't do it if the statistics are working against us. And at the moment, in many states, the statistics are working against the legitimate scientific basis for reopening the economy. And that is why we have had to retrench. And that's going to cost the U.S. economy a tremendous amount of money. Not getting it right the first time is going to cost taxpayers for years to come.
Okay. Chris Hahn, I want to move on to another development this week, and that is the president floating the idea of postponing the election because conditions would not lead to a fair and a free election and a transparent election. What do you make of what he had to say?
I mean, that's what a loser would say when he's losing, right? Let's not play the game. The United States Constitution, the laws of the United States will not allow the election to be postponed past November 3rd. And if there, for some reason, is no election on November 3rd, or if the president somehow holds up the results in court past January 20th at 12:01, he will cease to be president because the 20th Amendment of the United States Constitution says that his term ends at 12 o'clock and the new term begins at 12:01. And if there's a vacancy at 12:01, then the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House, will become President of the United States at that time. So, look, we didn't fight all the wars we fought around this world for 240 years, preserving the United States Republic and our Constitution and our values, to allow a person like Donald Trump to steal an election or to say that our democracy is less than other parts of the world. We believe in the vote in this country. There is no evidence to support anything that the president said, and his failure to lead, which the good professor just talked about here, about our economy and us not having a real strategy to fight the virus, is why he's in the predicament he's in right now. He had an opportunity in March to take the realm, to take the lead on this, to fight this virus and to tamp down on it. Instead, he promoted conspiracy theories. He tried to deny it was even here, and now he's living with the consequences.
All right, Jesse Lee Peterson, what is your response to what you've just heard?
First of all, the president took action early on, and when he banned travel from China and parts of Europe, these same radical far-left lying Democrats call him a racist. Even Nancy Pelosi went down to Chinatown, prancing around with the Chinese people. Oh, no problem, no problem. And then as soon as he decided to do something else, they went against him. Everything that this president does, they are against it because they are liars, and what they want is power and wealth. That's what they want, and the president is in the way of their way of getting control of the people and getting finance for themselves. And this idea of possibly not holding the election in November, I like that idea because the Democrats are desperate.
Of course
they want power and wealth.
Yeah.
They're far left radical. They are so far left now, they're falling off the edge. And they want to control the people. And the Democrats cannot be trusted at all.
Jesse, if the virus is a hoax, why would we need to close the election? Why do we have to do that, Jesse? Why don't you explain yourself? Because you're conflicting.
Why are you always interrupting, man? Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you.
Because you're a lying fool, and I don't want the people of the world to hear you.
I don't need you to interrupt me, Mr. Beta Male. Hold on. The president.
Yeah. Oh, you think I'm a beta male? Come on out here.
Hold on, beta male. The president and
come out
all
here,
of us.
We'll see who's a beta male.
Okay. Hold on, man. We know that the Democrats.
Very quickly, Jesse. I gotta go.
They have tried before to steal the election, and that's what they want to do this time around. They want the president out.
Right.
And the president has more support than what the liberal media and these liars want you to know.
Okay, and that's where we are going to have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We turn now to a significant development in China's space program. China's Beidou navigation system is now fully operational. It's China's version of the GPS system and can be used for everything from personal navigation on smartphones to tracking planes and cargo ships and military applications as well. The Chinese President Xi Jinping attended a ceremony on Friday at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing to mark the achievement. Earlier, I spoke with Wang, the principal analyst and founder of Constellation Research. Now, this satellite that was launched completes China's Beidou navigation network. China now joins other countries like the United States and Russia in having a fully fledged navigation system in space. Why is this important for China?
This is significant for China because it's part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative. It's part of an infrastructure project that allows China to have the ability to offer GPS capabilities to its partners. So whether you're looking at deep sea wells, drilling, military movements, support and transport, weather and logistics, the ability to actually create private communications networks, that's what China's trying to offer as it thinks about expanding to its Belt and Road partnerships.
Now, there was a commentary piece in the Chinese newspaper, The People's Daily, in which China said that the Beidou system will belong, and I'm quoting here, to the whole world and all mankind. Does this mean that other countries will also have access to its capabilities?
Well, I think other countries will have access to Beidou because the BDS-3 system is something they want to open up to the rest of the world. Currently, the global default is the US GPS model, and the backups are GLONASS and Galileo for the European model. And so having 4 networks up there gives people the level of redundancy. I think it's going to come down to the question of, which countries are aligned in the China sphere, which countries are aligned in the US sphere, and which countries are operating in between. Those are the ones that are going to consider BDS-3.
Right, you mentioned the Belt and Road Initiative. That, of course, is the Chinese outreach, mostly in the developing world, where China is financing and building infrastructure in many of these countries. Is this the space equivalent of that, and will developing countries have some kind of preferential access to the navigation system?
Talking to some of people that are familiar with this, I believe that that is the policy. They want to open that up to those countries that are part of that Belt and Road Initiative. It's along with their development funds, along with the Belt and Road, along with their Chinese version of the internet, along with other technologies. China sees itself as being a foundational supplier to countries in that Belt and Road Initiative.
Now, Ray, looking at the actual technology here, what will this navigation system actually do?
Well, it's actually special. One of the things that they have there is they got a higher degree of accuracy than current GPS systems or what is available to other countries at this moment by the U.S. government. The U.S. government probably has a higher accuracy that's not available to all partners. And the most important thing is really about supporting bidirectional characters and 1,200 Chinese characters for message communications and getting images delivered in a high degree of accuracy. And then there's one other piece, which is really the atomic clock that they had. The rubidium atomic clock that they have is probably a lot more accurate than what's in existing technology. So it's a newer GPS system, and it gives China an advantage to attracting some countries into that model.
Yeah, is this what China means when it says that this system will have a higher bandwidth?
It is, right? And it's really about, being able to deliver and, design more sophisticated hardware models and be able to get them out into space more quickly. And that's why they have 55 satellites there to also improve the ability to, deliver on that pinpoint accuracy.
So what has China been dependent on up to now for its navigation?
Well, China's been using other satellite systems, but this is their 55th, satellite position system in there. So it's the 55th satellite. So, I think they've been using some of their own over a period of time. I mean, they've been doing this over the period of last decade to be able to get these satellites up there. It was really a question about how accurate, how precise they wanted to get to. And that precision came with the last satellite. So they've been using a lot of their own in some of the other systems.
You mentioned the civilian applications for this system, things like smartphones, tracking planes or tracking cargo ships on the planet. What about military applications? Will it also be used for that?
Oh, these definitely will be dual-use systems, a military purpose to be able to understand troop movements, to understand what's happening in terms of weather, what's happening in terms of natural disasters, being able to coordinate resources, resources for natural disasters. You're going to see a lot of usage there. Autonomous vehicle networks for transport and logistics can be actually running off this as well.
And I'm wondering what kind of independence this gives China, because there was a case, actually, this is more than 20 years ago, when there were tensions rising in the Taiwan Straits. China fired 3 missiles, but those 3 missiles, the guidance system on those 3 missiles was dependent on an American navigation system. 2 of those missiles were actually lost, and it's thought that they were lost because the U.S. actually cut off the navigation capabilities of those missiles.
Well, every world power and authority would love to have their own system to know that they're independent to avoid any types of those issues. I'm not sure if the navigation system was an issue or an accuracy of the missile at that point in time. But what I can say is that, that is part of the independence, the ability to have your own internet, the ability to have your own, resources from energy, and your ability to control the satellite and the skies above.
So what kind of strategic advantage will this give China?
This is a huge strategic advantage for China, and it's really about attracting other countries into its network, using it for foreign policy, creating situations where people have to make decisions as to whether they want to be on the Chinese network or the U.S. network. It's going to, on one hand, create more choices in the world, whether you align with the U.S. or align with China. On the other hand, it's also going to create a lot more tension as there's competition both on monetary policy and reserve currency status, competition for trade, competition for foreign power influence, and competition for tech dominance, as well as competition for healthcare and pharmaceutical dominance. It's only adding to that level of dual competition.
Right, and as you say, this was the 55th satellite that's in the system. So this is the system now completed. Is it all up and running right now?
From what we understand, the Chinese Academy of Space and Technology says it's fully up and running at the moment, and this was the last piece for them to get up there, according to them, as well as the Xinhua news agency.
These kinds of systems came into their own in the 90s. The United States, of course, as you mentioned, had its system. The Russians have the GLONASS system, and the Europeans have the Galileo system. Why did it take China so long to catch up with them?
I think this is the 3rd iteration, if I remember, of Chinese satellite systems. So Beidou is it's a new iteration of all these different systems that have been up there. And so they put up, I think there's some older satellites up there, but they put up 35 new satellites. And this is just not about taking much longer. It's they were trying to get to a certain level of precision. And you only have a certain number of orbital slots that you can to launch these satellites.
And if you look at civilian applications for this, I mean, just take, something like a cell phone that we use every day. What will a system like this do for communication?
Well, it's going to improve location-based services. That's the most obvious scenario, right? So the ability to identify someone, hey, potentially you get in a car accident, we can't find you, I can track your signal and be able to get up there. If we get to a situation where, we're trying to figure out, density and crowds and emergency response, how do we actually come back and figure out a safety protocol for that. It's also going to improve your ability to get to specific sets of services to find other individuals. So I mean, you're talking about almost 1.2 billion nodes on maybe 1.5x devices. So there's potentially 2 billion devices that are in place. It helps with IoT and tracking for drones and drone systems for automated delivery, automated transport. It's a critical foundational technology.
Ray Wang, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks a lot.
That was Ray Wang talking to us there, and that is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Beidou in Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching.